if we don't kill this woman, the Nazis are going to blow everything up because they're going to get the bomb first, guys. What? Are you fucking kidding me? There's no other way.
Captain's Pod, Stardate 12/21/64.1. Welcome aboard the Starship Enterprise, and thank you for joining us as we take a brief shore leave from the world of CinemaSins to explore the universe of Star Trek. I'm your Captain Ian Whittington, and with me as always, she can end a civil war with her index finger. It's Ambassador Deneé.
I prefer my pinky.
Ah, okay. Why?
Because they make promises.
Oh. Can index fingers not make promises?
No, that's the rule.
It's only the pinkies.
It's just the pinky. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pinky, palm, those are the two.
Wait, how does a palm
Handshakes.
Help?
Mm-hmm.
Handshakes and civil wars. Yeah, that makes sense.
Handshakes and pinkies. Index fingers, it's too close to the middle finger. Can be very confusing.
Oh, you get like a sudden fake out, like you think you're going for an index finger and then suddenly, nope, fuck you, middle finger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or the peace sign flipped around the wrong way. Very naughty. Didn't know that until I met you.
I remember you doing that I think it was in England. No, you didn't do it, but I saw you throw it up and I was like, oh, why are you swearing at me? And so in America, is there just like no backwards way of doing that? Like for us, the peace sign is palm forward and then fuck you is spinning it round.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I met you. And then when you explained it to me, we were in England because you were trying to keep me from causing trouble.
Yeah, especially in traffic. Like you throw up the birds, then you're going to get into trouble in traffic.
Yeah, and on a roundabout, they could it's just a forever
chase. Just chase you.
Just a a circular nightmare.
At least 12 people die every year on roundabouts just because they can't escape. Anyway, speaking of spinning round and round, it's time for our unconventional love episodes to continue. But before that, let's do some emails. Emails. Okay, hailing frequencies open, everyone. It's time for us to read your emails from Discord, Twitter, and, well, email. We have another audio message. So the email I was going to do this week, I'm going to do next week, because this audio specifically talks about this week's episode, I think. I can't remember. I've listened to it. I can't exactly remember. And this is from Alexander Baker.
I like that we're just mispronouncing names now. It's my new favorite thing. You have to send Ian the specifications of how to pronounce your name. Otherwise, you never know what's going to happen.
Alexander Baker. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it says. Let's hear from Ander.
Good morning, Captain. The officer of the deck sends her respects and wishes to inform you of the approaching hour. All reports in hand. Request permission to strike 8 bells on time.
Now, I had a bit of a back and forth with Alexander because I had no idea what the beginning of that message meant. So it's it's strike 8 bells on time. The officer of the deck has a report and whatnot. And Alexander is in the US Navy, and that is how they're like when they're reporting to the captain at the end of the watch. There's like this official way to present the report. And the 8 bells refer to, there are 8 bells that are sounded at the end of each watch. I think it was at like 4-hour intervals. So Alex said that he wishes that Gene Roddenberry had done this at the beginning of like the official start, the reports that were given to like Captain Picard and Captain Kirk, like really official and like sounding of the 8 bells.
But can you imagine if you were in the military? Like, let's say that you were in the U.S.
Navy.
Navy.
We can just end that there. Nope, I can't.
And you're watching Star Trek, and they ddid something that was so much like the U.S. naval systems.
Oh,
your
it'd be too
butt
triggering.
would be clenched the whole time. You couldn't relax.
Completely.
You'd be like you're at attention. You're trying to you're in your lazy boy, and all of a sudden you just fly up into attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, immediately. It's like, Captain on the deck.
I have to assume that it would be really interesting to watch a show like this if you were in the Navy, considering that we've made the correlation before.
Oh, absolutely. There's a couple of listeners, Cameron's one of them, that has experience in the military and is often noting these comparisons. I love that. It's so interesting. And these 4-hour watches that are signaled by the 8 bells are at midnight, 4 a.m., 8 a.m., 12, 1600, and 2000. So It's like it's the middle of the morning. It's like bells, bells, bells.
Yep. You can't actually fall into a deep sleep. You know,
No.
you have to stay at the ready. Honestly, I'm glad for the explanation because my assumption was that it was like Minecraft. They have these bells in Minecraft, and every time I play with Ian, he just mashes the bells.
They are so loud.
He'll walk in a door and be like,
They're amazing.
like a
You
maniac.
just line them up and you're
Just a fucking maniac on the bells.
So great. I love it. Okay, back to Alexander.
With your permission, Captain, I am super excited to hear Ambassador Deneé's opinions and thoughts and reactions to City on the Edge of Forever. One of the best TOS episodes of all time. And rightfully so, with all the awards and everything, because it's such a deep and amazing episode.
So,
no fucking pressure.
Right, this is a nice tie-in. And City on the Edge of Forever it won awards. Like, critics love it, fans love it. Everybody pretty much agrees it's an incredible episode of Star Trek, great episode of sci-fi, has a huge caliber behind it. And I don't say that with any pressure for you to like it, but I'm always fascinated by that. Like, how does that change your expectations, like, going into the episode?
I am now nervous. Where I was once just like, yep, I'm gonna sit down and watch some Star Trek with my buddy today. We're gonna have a live audience at some point. Hopefully, they still don't hate me because of what I said about Jadzia last week. Like my now it's even more. Now it feels like a Jadzia level situation where there's just like these expectations of what I might feel. But you know what? I'm just gonna be me, and I'm gonna watch it, and I'm just gonna say what I say. And
Just
oh my
enjoy
god.
it. Yep, just enjoy it. Ignore the nerds. Just enjoy what you're going to enjoy. Hate what you're going to hate.
Wasn't there a episode recently that was award winning and we were like kind of confused by that? Was it the one where was it the chest bursting one?
Oh, no, yeah, but that one won an award for, like, practical effects.
Okay.
that I kind of understand. That's not winning an award for writing. That was conspiracy. Okay, back to Alex.
So I'm super excited to see what she ultimately thinks. That being said, it is aluminum, not aluminium.
Thank you.
Right, no, and Alex goes on.
No, just keep going. We don't need to interrupt him. We don't need to interrupt the man. Let's just let it play. Let's let it play. He said it. He said what he said. Let's just go.
We'll skip ahead. He says some things.
Let's just go on.
Because the guy who discovered aluminum said its name is aluminum, but the Royal Science Academy didn't like it because something to do with Latin naming. I don't remember the exact reasoning, but the man who discovered it said it's aluminum. Everybody else is wrong.
Well, now it's because these new elements and whatnot have to end in an ium. They have to end in an ium. So you can't just name it
Poop
Spock. Like, it has to be named an ium. But they've kind of done away with that anyway. But fine, agree to disagree.
But back to Star Trek, I do have the question of, with how much Deneé loves her Worf and subsequently Klingons, when do we get a Klingon-centric season? Because there are so many bangers. I would definitely love to hear her reaction on that one Enterprise episode, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we all know which Enterprise we do.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You don't,
that's
but
part
we
of why that's why I'm here. I'm the one that doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I look forward to that because there's so many great Klingon episodes all throughout every series, minus the Discovery, but that's because I hate those Klingons. I'm one of those weird ones.
I get it.
Outside of that, I would love to hear the ambassador's opinions about Galron, about Martok, about Kern. There are just so many Klingons that stand out, and that needs to happen sooner rather than later. Also, Horta, forever and always, greatest TOS monster, period, the end. Please excuse me, Captain, Ambassador, pleasure as always. Oh, quick sidebar. You have no idea how much I had to edit this down. Talking Star Trek is one of my all-time favorite pastimes, and listening to you guys talk about it gets me so ramped up, and I love it, and I enjoy everything. The only problem is it got me rambling, and there were a number of times I had to cut it out.
We feel that pain every week, every single week.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the message. It was wonderfully edited, and the passion can be heard. I also love that you had several things that you really wanted to talk about. And aluminum was one of them. That was fantastic.
I disagree. I don't think that was very interesting at all. I think
But truly, one of the differences about this podcast, I'm learning as I go, and as I've looked at other podcasts, other Star Trek podcasts out there, is that we're kind of not doing it like show by show, season by season. We're doing thematics. And that was sort of something that just happened naturally from the show just progressing. So the fact that we have now had someone say, let's go to do Klingon conversation.
Yeah.
There's so many different themes that we could pull from. And I'm sure there's episodes we could watch multiple times that fit into many themes. So I'm sure you've just inspired others to think about other themes that you want us to cover too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, always feel free to suggest a theme for sure. I think there's just a little bit more of Alex's message.
That being said, live long in Podsper.
Oh, I just missed the live long and Podsper. That was it. Amazing.
That was such an important part of the message.
That was really important.
Live long and
I like it when slogans catch on. Yeah, doing the Klingons is an absolutely great idea. There are so many, so I think what may happen in the future is that we will, just because we visited a topic doesn't mean we won't return to it. So it might be Klingons Part 1, Q Part 1, something like that, and then we'll revisit it. Like, I don't know. Again, this is where we're going to need your help, everybody, to suggest the best Klingon episodes or the best episodes for whatever theme that we're going to do next.
And best can be interpreted many, many different ways. Let's be honest.
100%. Yeah.
I think
just favorite.
For me, it's really fun to learn about the lore of a species. For example, learning that, in TOS, the Klingons were the enemy and then they shifted over. So there's a lot to kind of be unpacked if we were to switch over into Klingon territory. You get it?
Across the neutral zone into Klingon territory. I mean, it's amazing that 99.999% of the Klingon lore was made in TNG. And we did watch one which had like Worf and like the death screaming thing. I think that was one we did. This was the first time that Worf meets other Klingons on board the Enterprise, and one of them dies. And I think we did it. I'm pretty sure we did it on the show.
We need to have a wiki.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I have a personal spreadsheet. I do not have a wiki. Someone out there make a Captain's Pod wiki.
Yeah, get on it, fans.
Get on it right now, people.
We have several requests. 1, make our wiki. 2, suggest us on all kinds of platforms where people are talking about Star Trek. Reddit, podcast websites, wherever your Star Trek delights you. Talk about us. And 3, send us treats. No, wait, no.
Yes.
No.
Send us dogs.
Okay. 4, dogs.
Yes, send us dogs.
Please do not send anything living in the mail.
No, please don't do that. Okay, it's just going to turn up on your doorstep now. Here's the ambassador's address. She will happily take your dogs. And cats.
I do have the cat sleeping in Iris's room.
Of course you do.
Right now.
Of course you do.
I forgot what my number 4 was. Oh, yeah, your suggestions.
Oh, yeah, suggestions. Amazing. Well, thank you for the audio, Alex, or Alexander. Didn't specify. Did you? Maybe you did. Hang on, let me check. You did, Alex. And yeah, anyone else out there that has audio, visual, emails, send them over. captainspod@cinemasins.com, on Twitter /X, at captainspodcs, and on the Discord. Discord.gg/cinemasins. Yeah, that's
it. You got it on your first try.
There we go, first time. Okay, Ambassador. So that is one audio message with somebody very hyped to hear your thoughts on City on the Edge of Forever. Lots of emails, people very happy that we're doing this episode. I will say it is not technically unconventional love.
Damn it.
I think this is just straight up love. However, you can't be mad at me because the fan suggested it. And this won. This won the popular vote. This was the number 1 most requested episode. Not just for this theme, for previous themes. I think people just want us to do this episode.
But to be clear, there was actually no vote. It was just sending in suggestions.
Yeah, which I guess is a vote because more than one episode got more than one request. So there was a tally. It won the tally.
So there's a difference between most requested and then most voted.
Okay, yes, most requested. We'll go with that. With all of those expectations, let's have a couple of predictions. What strikes you about City on the Edge of Forever?
Okay. So I think that we're going to be like visiting a planet, and there's what is that the Fountain of Youth aspect.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, forever. That makes sense.
Yeah, something about a place you want to stay forever and you don't want to leave. And being youthful seems to be a very common writer's theme for wanting to stay somewhere. It makes you feel young and vibrant and energetic.
Yeah, immortality is one of those great story plots. And when you find it, is it the thing that you think you wanted, or is it actually a curse?
Yeah, it's just an infusion of collagen, you know?
Yeah, that's all it is. And give us one oddly specific prediction.
Oddly specific prediction is a collagen injection.
A collagen injection. That's... I mean, I know this episode, and I can already tell you're going to try and claim a victory on that one.
City on the Edge of Tomorrow. Well, since you said that, I'm going to say injection of some kind. Like there's something injected. Yeah.
Right now, the audience are screaming at me.
Something is forcibly pushed through tissue in an injection style. Now, this is not this could be this. What are we
I cannot wait to talk about this after we've watched the episode.
Oh no, what have I done?
It's so great because...
Do you think people believe us that I have no idea?
No, I do. I do believe, because we had an email it was somebody that's going through all of our Strange New Worlds coverage at the minute, and Picard season 2, I think, or season 3. And they were stunned by your predictions and were like hoping that we revisit them at some point and just...
Oh my God, we should.
...talk to how spooky your predictions are. So people are still like shocked by it.
Well, I just want to say, these episodes exist. Like I could have looked them up before the show and you just have to trust that I didn't. But that was funny because I was just thinking about collagen injections and then I was thinking about like... Yeah, so now I'm really curious what's going to happen.
What's incredible about this is that you fluked your way into it and then fluked your way out of it completely. It's amazing. No. It's so good.
Okay, well then I'm going to change it. So it's an injection of some kind.
It's locked in. You can't just delete this.
General injection.
No.
Injection of something. Okay.
What I do want you to know before we go into this episode, and we'll talk about this in 10 Forward quite a bit, this had... one of the most tumultuous behind-the-scenes processes, I think, of any episode of Star Trek. From the writing to the production. In the 60s, it cost $250,000 to make this one episode of television, $50,000 over budget. It's only 10% of what they originally wanted to do.
Jesus Christ!
This episode could have been insane. And it is still an absolute feat of 60s television. It's that's just an interesting thing to have in mind while you're watching it, I think.
Okay, so that just means we've got set building, we've got people that we're paying to be on set, maybe interesting wardrobe that had to be created because that costs money.
It could have been a garbage fire. It's amazing that it ends up being an all-timer episode.
What if I hate it? Oh God, I'm so nervous.
You might hate it. Hand on heart, it's not one of my favorite episodes. I respect it, but it is not one that I go back to a lot. Okay, with that, let's head over to 10 Forward for a full debrief after we've been to the holodeck. To beam out.
Welcome to Captain's Pod, everyone. Oh wait, no, we already did that part.
No, continue.
Welcome to Captain's Pod, the part of the show where we go to the debrief room and grab a drink or whatever we want from a replicator that has not been cleaned out in a long time and probably contains some sort of bacterium that will infect everyone and turn us into tiny little sack creatures.
It's good that you mentioned that the replicator hasn't been cleaned out because we aren't using it this week. This week, we're getting something from the soup kitchen. What would you like, Ambassador?
Oh, just the thickest, most bitter, aromatic coffee that puts hair on your chest, so they say.
Yeah.
When you drink it, you regret having a throat, taste buds, really just a digestive system entirely. But but you don't feel tired anymore.
No, and it will cure a colchicine injection, which I think is basically adrenaline. So I'm not sure how more coffee, adrenaline in liquid form, is actually going to help, but it definitely cures McCoy. I would like that really...
Is it that? Is it that that cures McCoy, or is it love?
I think it's love,
Let's
time.
talk about it. Let's talk about
time and waviness.
Maybe just some
I
sleep.
actually want just the bread.
Yeah.
That's it. That looked like a really nice bit of doorstop bread that I liked. Give us a synopsis, Ambassador.
Ooh, okay. Well, what we knew going into this episode is this was really expensive to make, and I made some predictions, and boy, was I right. That's all that matters.
We need to do the predictions first. We really, really do.
Okay, so the synopsis of this episode is that our Kirk and Spock and McCoy travel back in time, but not in that order. McCoy goes first because he's a lunatic and he just jumps through the space hoop.
Mm-hmm. Medically induced lunacy. Yeah.
Yeah, great way to put that. Because he beamed himself down onto the nearby random planet because he is paranoid after injecting himself with things he shouldn't have injected himself accidentally. It was not anybody's fault but his own.
This is
why we don't walk around with scissors. This
really
is why
is.
You have to really be careful with
equipment. Don't run with scissors or needles or colchicine or there should have been like a rubber stop that he puts on top of the needle. Yeah. Don't be such a dumbass, McCoy.
But if he would have done that, then he wouldn't have traveled back to the 1930s where he inadvertently changes time forever. And so that's why Kirk and Spock have to go back through. And if they're not successful, boy, everybody else has to go back through. But we forget about that subplot entirely because they end up saving the day, but only after falling in love and also murder
and an accidental phasering as well, which is just the most random part of the episode. Yeah,
I have so many questions. I did not know what the fuck that was. I was like, what was that? Did he beam himself somewhere?
No, looks like it. Great synopsis, Ambassador.
Thank you.
No pressure. Overall thoughts and feelings on the episode. Did you have a good time with it?
Yeah. Okay, so I think I had a good time with this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know why it's really beloved. And by the end of it, I really felt myself enjoying it. But the pacing of TOS is so different than the pacing of what I'm used to watching. So there were many moments where, like, the fact that they made so many in a season blows my mind. That they just fill all this time.
It's incredible. Like 29 episodes. 29 is just in 1 year.
It's a lot.
Incredible.
This is what you would consider like TV movie length. Now when I'm watching something now, if it's nearing an hour, I call it a TV movie. Where you're investing a bit of time. It's a special. It's a TV special whenever they're this long. So to imagine that there's that much time to fill, I thought they did a good job, because even the parts where it seemed a bit slow, there was still some storytelling going on screen. The didn't seem like the writers were really ever not trying to say something specific. Like, how many times did we cut back to the room that Spock and Kirk were in? But every time we did, Kirk's little experiment just kept growing and growing and growing. So, it wasn't like there was nothing happening. It was that it was a slower paced to get there. And the reveals of these bits of information, I was, by the time we find out that the love interest woman who somehow has this intuition about the future, it is either going to die or not die, just depending. By the time we got to that, I like needed that to propel the rest of the episode forward, because I was
I get it.
What else is happening? Because McCoy hadn't shown up, so it was pretty evident that McCoy wasn't going to be the action of this episode. The action of this episode is this like love interest, and I usually want out when it's a love interest, which is, I mean, and I recognize that we're like in a series, we're doing love stuff, so I get it. It doesn't make sense, but this was this was a really, really good love episode, because it was unconventional love. This was tragic.
Having watched it, I do think it fits the bill. It's not all about the love. It's about a choice that Kirk has to make based on 2 weeks of horniness.
Yeah, it was it had a really good dramatic element, I felt. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can pick anything apart.
Of
That's
course,
part of
especially
our
time
jobs,
travel.
is to pick things apart. But I didn't mind it. And I didn't mind that the unconventional part of this wasn't like him falling in love and, you know, trying to figure out how he can stay in the past or whatever. Because there's even that moment at the end where the magical gate guy, Guardian.
Yeah. The Guardian
like,
of Forever.
Basically goes, "You want to go again?"
Yeah.
And you can kind of see him
Get us
thinking,
out of here.
yeah, but he had a chance to go back, right? Like he could have gone and done that again. And
Terrible Guardian, by the way. Terrible. Like just the worst.
The Guardian of Forever.
Yeah, you've hit on the thing that watching it this time round really struck me too, is that I love this as a sci-fi story, and it's a classic for a reason. And bits of it do clip along quite well, but the drip feeding of the mystery, I think we'd probably see that done differently today. Like,
yeah.
For me, like what I do like about the mystery is that we don't know exactly what the change is. So we know that Edith is at the heart of it, but it's quite clever that we don't know if they're supposed to keep her alive or if she's supposed to die. And with this time round, I was kind of like, I wish we got there sooner. Like, I wish we knew that Edith had to die a bit sooner so that Kirk had a bit more time to wrestle with it. Because that back, 10 minutes runs away with itself. Like, it's gone. It's so quick. And I did feel some of the... Probably now because I know it was meant to be like an hour and a half. It was like the original script and idea was 90 minutes. This looks nothing like the original script. I can feel like a little bit of the back end of the mystery rushed a little bit, but the heart is still there.
Yeah. So before we watched it, you kind of told me that this was a very expensive one. I made some assumptions about why, and I was super right. Like, it is expensive because they had big sets. We had a lot of people. We had a lot of props.
A lot of extras.
So a lot going
Huge,
on.
Beautiful time portal that flashes up and lights up, and I kind of think it's clever that it has the smoke that drops down to give the projection image. What can we do to make this look fancy? Because
Steam!
CGI hasn't happened yet. Let's make it steam powered. Steam powered time machine, people. Let's go.
Yeah, because you told me that, I watched this entire episode kind of thinking about how they spent their money on this episode. And the first thing, is the gate where they lit it up and somebody's over there just pressing the button as it talks, sort of like, I am the guardian of time. And every time he speaks, it kind of lights up.
Which is that's not the only show where they had to do this. So in Doctor Who, the Daleks would have this incredible mechanical voice. And the person that was inside the Daleks would operate the lights. And they had to press the button every time somebody on the outside was saying the line so that the lights on the top matched up with the syllables being said. So it's just like this, these... It should be such an easy thing, but it takes 3 people to operate.
You also told me that this was supposed to be longer, and as I watched it, I was thankful it wasn't. But I don't know. At least
I don't know.
It's so different from the original script. You said I have not read the original. So did you read the original script then, or
no? I've read synopses online. Harlan Ellison wrote a book about the process of making this episode and writing this script. And I've gone through some websites and tried to codify some rumors that I'd heard, and it's so interesting. So it's impossible to talk about this episode without going into the behind the scenes a little bit. So Gene wanted Star Trek to be this prestige sci-fi show, and he wanted to ensure that by bringing on the best sci-fi writers. So you'd have your staffers, but he wanted to get big names attached to the show. And in the 60s, Harlan Ellison was a huge name in sci-fi. And since then has gained a reputation for being quite an eccentric genius that's quite irritable, I think is a kind way to put it. He's absolutely a genius, but it took, I think the total amount of time from conception to actually making the episode was 10 months. And about 9 months of that was just getting the script nailed down. Because the first thing that he wrote was this 90-minute epic, and the Guardians were these 9-foot alien creatures that were actually in this abandoned city. There was a subplot about, like, it wasn't McCoy that goes down to the planet. It's this member of the ship that was going to be executed for, I think it was dealing drugs or doing something on the ship. He's being taken down to the planet to be put to a firing squad because Ellison hadn't read the Star Trek rulebook, or it didn't exist yet. And in the process of going down to the planet, they find this time machine. This rogue officer jumps through the portal, changes time. They go back to the ship, and the Enterprise is still there, but it's a pirate ship because the Federation doesn't exist, and they're all pirates now. So they fight their way off the ship to go back down to the planet to go back in time. And it's just like this epic story that as soon as they read it, they're like, there is literally no way what are you doing? We cannot make this episode of TV. So it went back.
That's got to be so hard. Like, you and I know
so
very
hard.
well what it feels like to write something you're passionate about, and then your co-writer's like, we can't do that. And you're like, oh, but I want to do this thing, so badly. But there's like parameters to it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an element of you, at least in our world, in our little corner of the internet, we can sometimes stretch the idea of what the narrator is sinning, like what is a sin, and kind of get goofy or get silly, or even in the production of it, and kind of go, let's break the sin counter. Like, we kind of sometimes will think about these unique things, but still we will often hit some kind of a guardrail or a boundary, or just a hard no, we can't do that. And it's sometimes really hard to kind of like work with people when you're really passionate and everyone is saying no, and you're like, but I believe so strongly. I can't. So that's like our little tiny world. That's like our little tiny little, like our little tree house where the buddies go hang out. This guy is like this revered writer, and how do you go and be like, yeah, no, we can't do that? That must have been hard.
But rumor has it they basically blamed it on the studio and said the studio won't allow this to happen.
It's nice to have the studio to blame, right?
Sent it back to Harlan for a rewrite. He rewrote it, trimmed it down, and they said, you haven't changed anything. Like, this is still a movie. It's not different enough. So there was like months and months of back and forth. Harlan was getting allegedly pissier and pissier about it. And this is going on for so long that during that first season of Star Trek, head writers were coming and going. There were new teams in place. So many hands touched this script. It went for another rewrite, and they were still like, it's better, but now it's lost the passion that Harlan put into the story, so it's lost some of that oomph. He was just like, I disown this script. I want nothing to do with it. This is nothing to do with me. They changed it so that it was McCoy that was going to the planet, but instead, like, McCoy goes down there and gets like infected with a mushroom that he accidentally injects himself with and has a disease that way. They said, we don't like that. So they settled on the Corgazine. And long story short, everybody had touched this, eventually got it close to what it is now. Gene had another go at it, sent it back to Harlan, who had another go on it, but still hated it and refused to put his name on Roddenberry and Kuhn's final script. So Gene allegedly said, yeah, I'm going to get you blacklisted if you don't put your name on this, because the whole point really was
to bring
to
in a big
have
name.
That big written by Harlan Ellison at the end of the episode. So it's only written by one person. Everyone else who touched it said, it's fine. We won't have our names on it. This is all about Harlan. And so eventually he conceded and said, fine. But this bears little to no resemblance to the original script. And it's just amazing that this episode ever happened. It was meant to be in the opening 10 episodes, and it got shunted all the way to the end. Like, we have to have this in season 1 because they didn't know they were getting a season 2. So like, we've got to get this script on there. It's so interesting when you see these behind the scenes stories and just like the passion behind it, the project that you could have seen. There's part of me that wants to see this 90-minute episode where like the Enterprise is a pirate ship. You've got the 9-foot aliens with huge heads. He like created this entire city that they were going to walk around as well. So yeah, it's fascinating to think about what could have been.
Yeah, But that's not what we saw at all.
No.
Like nothing
no.
that you just described. What you just described is like when my little one describes, the bedroom of her dreams, and then she walks in and it's just her actual room.
And that's kind of reality, isn't it? Like Harlan clearly didn't have any like kind of guide rails. They were just like, write something for us. And he went, okay, I will. And he did. And it is kind of crushing to think that, well, you asked me to write something and now you can't do it and you can't even get close to it. Like, I can't imagine how disappointing. Like, he gets painted as pretty aggressive, but I can't imagine how disappointing that is to just be shot down and to see your baby become something totally different. And then people still love it.
There's a thing, right? Like, if somebody said, hey, Deneé, I want you to write something because we want to like explore your imagination and hear what you have in there. And then you pour all of it in there. And then afterwards, you're told the parameters of it. Mm-hmm. That would be really difficult.
Yeah.
I would rather know, hey, okay, you're going to write something that can only be on screen for under an hour. We can't make entire sets or anything like that. Here's the parameters of what each character is and is not allowed to do. And maybe they did. Maybe they did give some parameters, and it was just like, no, I'm gonna stretch the imagination.
Yeah.
But this does some things that I feel become sort of a normalcy for Star Trek, like time travel and diverging.
The past.
Yeah, one decision that can change the future. Having to survive, and we got Spock's beanie. And what else do we need?
I mean, the appearance of Spock's beanie. Like, I'll never forget your reaction when I first, when you in Strange New Worlds and you saw the beanie, and you're like, I can't believe he has a Star Trek Delta beanie, and I'm like, oh, this isn't the first time we've seen the Spock beanie.
I know, and now I've seen the original episode. Like, I'm so excited.
I don't know if this is the first time. I think it is.
This has to be the first time.
I think it's the first time.
In history, because it happened in 1930.
I guess, technically, that's true. But I think there is another time travel episode, but this might be the earliest they go. But the Spock beanie is iconic.
While we're talking about, like, the expense of the show and the setup and the set before we kind of go through different things, I was thankful that the chat pointed out that the street location was the main street of the Mayberry redress. And I kept thinking this, like, did they put a lot of their money into a set build? It looked so perfectly done, and I thought they must have reused.
Yeah, they used another lot of the Paramount lot.
But that's so cool. Like, you get to go on there and you get to reuse things that are already in use and find a clever way to do it.
Imagine if you used like the same extras, but forgot to tell them they were filming Star Trek, and just like, whoa, this show is taking a turn. This is totally different.
That's almost exactly what happened. You have like. All of a sudden, Star Trek shows up and everyone's like,
why are you in pajamas?
Where? Oh, because you're Chinese. Stuff.
Oh, man. Yeah.
The things
the
that
60s.
The things we did.
Rice picking accident. Bended me.
Yeah.
But I do love Kirk giving that description.
Fucking send that shit.
It's so bad.
Yeah, that was bad. That was aside from the telegraphed love music. So, like, that reference...
Oh, and the misty filter on Joan Collins whenever she appears.
Yeah, I don't mind a misty filter. Like, sometimes I'll just, like, lick my thumb and smudge my webcam just for that filter. There's a place for it.
Nice soft focus.
No. That was the biggest, like, oof of it. And then the telegraphed music was my second oof. Because this episode... There's creepy music going on. Like, there's a suspense music kind of happening. There's like a little bit of like, I don't know, Twilight Zone-ish feel to it.
It's very Twilight Zone. I mean, he did write for the Twilight Zone. No, wait, he wrote for...
Did he? Okay.
Did he write...
Look at my accidental...
He wrote an episode of The Outer Limits.
Okay.
I think he did an episode of The Twilight Zone as well. It's definitely more in his wheelhouse because you can just be off the rails.
Right. Well, either way, it had that vibe to it where it's like a little wacky Wednesday-ish, where just everything's slightly off and the music has this undertone of a tension build that was really, like, that was interesting. But every time that the swoony music came on between the two of them, I kept thinking, like, if the music had stayed the same, this is a horror movie. This is a horror thing because...
Oh, it is,
because Kirk is super creepy. He's like... If Spock says that he's going to do something.
I hate that moment.
He's going to do something. But he's like smiling like...
It's your reputation that he's going to... He's just like, what are you going to do to her? Like, are you going to murder her and like put her in with the coal? It was like he was going for seductive, but lands in serial killer.
But he has this smile that, because of the music and because we love the character, we're going to put it over here in the safe category. But in the real world, if he had said that and it was just silence in this sort of old basement where the only sound is the crackling of the fire, that was so scary. I'm like, run, woman. You have 2 men that show up in your basement. Just fucking run, Anyway.
Yeah, and if her reaction is anything other than, hey, would you like to walk me home? If she's like scared, there's a totally different tone to that as well. So there is an element of rushed romance to this. She falls in love with Kirk hard and fast, and that's something I never fully understand.
Her too.
And he falls for her too, and it works in service of the story. It's fine, but this is where I'll give it a pass because it really is the key to this time element thing. And you mentioned earlier about how this has the hallmarks of like time travel stories in the future. I love the really clever element that they're convinced it's McCoy that's going to be the problem, but it has that extra layer of actually Kirk is the potential problem here because they only go back in time because of McCoy, and he potentially saves her or doesn't stop McCoy from saving her. I'm not too sure. There's a lot of this that doesn't actually make sense, but I like that layer of not knowing who is supposed to be the one that's going to save Edith.
Well, it seemed like before, so McCoy goes back in time. She keeps him and is looking after him. And then whenever Kirk goes back in time, he has a date with her that night. So she leaves him. She leaves McCoy to go on a date.
Yeah.
So if McCoy hadn't been there in the first place, she would have been leaving or she would have been going out and doing something instead of staying in. So by McCoy being there when he went through, he inadvertently kept her from being hit by a car.
Isn't the date with Kirk?
That same night.
Yeah.
But that happens after he goes back in time. So then so Spock and Kirk go back to predate McCoy.
Right.
And so then because Kirk is taking her on a date, he then puts her back in the line of fire.
Right, okay.
Which, of course, they don't know until it happens.
Listen, the time travel in this episode doesn't work. It does not make sense.
Well, time travel rarely makes any sense.
Fair. Totally fair.
It was really interesting, too, like the building tension, like her almost falling down the stairs and her almost getting hit by the car when they first walk across the street. Just this sort of like, whoo.
And I love that Spock calls him out and just like, you need to stop. Like at any minute she could be dead and should be dead. The universe wants this. Please stop letting her not fall downstairs.
Yeah.
So this is where my brain is bending a bit. So McCoy goes back in time, changes history by preventing her from getting killed by the car. However, this doesn't delete Kirk and the away team. They are somehow on the planet still protected and isolated. Then they go back in time to stop McCoy, but might accidentally cause it as well. That's where I get backwards. But it's what was going to happen was always going to happen.
As the chat points out, what happened. Like maybe Kirk going back in time to put her on a path to kill her was the actual.
Yeah, maybe that was the actual thing that. Maybe. I mean, it is the actual thing that happens in history. Yeah.
Who knows?
Oh my goodness! So thank you, Kirk, for stopping the Germans in World War II. I guess. Sorry, not the Germans, the Nazis. This is a thing that bugs me with like TV shows from like the 60s, 70s, around that time, and some movies, is when they say, the Germans. I was like, no, it wasn't the Germans, it was the Nazis. And there is a distinction there because we were all part of armies that were fighting as well. And it's not the Germans were evil. It wasn't the Germans. It was the Nazis.
Yeah.
But that's something that's you see that much less nowadays when you see time travel stuff in episodes.
Yeah. Let's break down this episode. So we first have like when the show starts, we've kind of talked about the big themes here. We got to see them shaking around. And I love
the cold open.
Yeah, I do too. And I know that probably for so many people listening to a podcast, existing Star Trek lovers, like this is just something that you're like, yeah, this happens. But for me, I haven't really seen TOS shaky around on the bridge very much. And so it sort of feels like a treat in a weird way.
It does. I know what you mean. I'll show you some more action-y episodes. But I love this cold open. You got like the dramatic music, the ship being thrown around. There are time distortions that are affecting the fabric of the space space continuum, and Spock is like, people, chill out. I gotta get my readings. Sulu has just been blown up, and Spock's just like, nearly done. This is really scientifically important.
Yeah. How did that happen?
I gotta look at my visor.
Oh my God. We were, I was like, we're watching it, and I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure that the way that they have their rail system really did need to change. So by TNG, the rails are like at waist length, so that when they're falling forward, it's not at shin length, like it's shin height.
Yeah. I mean, other than Worf's tactical console, the amount of times you see like people falling over that's impractical. But the ones in TOS were death traps. Like, that is just perfect.
It's perfect.
We're going to pivot over that like a pendulum. So
just
easy.
Topple on over.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. And then, you have this unexpected moment. But can we talk about my predictions? Because obviously
let's do
I nailed it. Obviously, this is a big one for me. I'm super excited.
Your overall prediction was that we would be going down to a planet and there would be a fountain of youth experience kind of thing. Didn't get that one. However, your oddly specific prediction was that there would be like an injection of some sort. And I was like, what are you doing? There's an injection, because we jumped from Fountain of Youth to an injection of collagen. And I was like, this is incredible. I was like, there is absolutely an injection. But then you said there is an injection forced upon somebody. And it's not. It's clumsy.
Oh, come on.
It's just a clumsy injection. Is that forced? I'll put it down to clumsiness. There are two.
He forces, like, like, it's not like I didn't mean by, what I meant by force is someone had to forcibly give somebody an injection.
Okay. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Like an attack.
Yeah, I more thought you meant like they're being held down and then injected with it.
Which, I mean, well, one of them's unconscious. He is being held, but that doesn't.
The ship basically holds down McCoy and makes him stab himself. And this was one of like Harlan Ellison's objections, was this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen. And the quote is, he said, I can't believe the doctor would be so boneheaded as to accidentally inject himself with this stuff. I'm like, yeah, fair. You should come work for CinemaSins. Rest in peace. He passed away years back. But yeah, it's the bit of the episode that is so jarring for me, just to see McCoy, Doctor on the flagship, just like Mr. Bean himself, and just inject with this super deadly drug that we've never seen before, just invented for this episode, and it just creates lunacy and the perfect conditions for him to transport himself down to a planet and then back in time. Like, it's so unlucky. If I was Kirk, I would just be looking around going, like, who did this? Like, there's no way this is an accident. Who is out to get me today? Dumb
things happen. We are humans, and we are fucking dumb.
Ways to die.
There are so many things that we barely avoid death every day. I think that yes, it is unlikely and it is dumb, but it is entirely possible. And that was interesting,
as long as it makes for a great episode.
This sort of, then we lean on Spock for the information that there's not really been a lot of research into what happens if you OD on this drug. But some people get really paranoid.
Yeah.
And then we get to see, all this, the adjacent decks are on their security thing. And then the door opens and there's this fucking crazy doctor that walks in and his eyes are just like saucers and he's starting to get sores and he's just batshit and he just chops somebody and I thought that was so great. He just goes chop chop as the person falls down. Yes.
McCoy knows exactly where to hit somebody. Like, they don't need Spock and the neck pinch. Just McCoy's karate chop is absolutely deadly.
It's fun. It's always fun to see the telegraphed sort of action sequences in TOS and also the telegraphed love. Things are much more subtle now. We have less of a need for like finger biting and but we have plenty of drama. At another moment later, when the doctor is particularly exhausted and he's clinging on to a post on Earth and he is just accosted a hobo, he just dramatically passes out and I'm loving it.
He's giving it all. He's so good. Yeah. He's so great in this episode. He's just unhinged. And I always love the makeup they did on this episode with like his mottled skin. That's like, why is this adrenaline thing it's like a holdover from like him ingesting a mushroom, like because that was obviously one version of the script, and I wonder if they just forgot to delete that because he just has this weird complexion going on. It's so good. And
she just touches him. She doesn't look at
don't touch him.
She's not looking at the lesions and thinking about her leprosy Bible studies. She's just like, come on in for a hug.
Yep, get over here.
Let me take you in.
Have so many diseases in this century. It's unreal.
That is how we shift onto this planet and come across the ruins. Now, someone in the chat said that originally it was supposed to be runes and then it was misinterpreted as ruins. Is that true?
Yeah, I was going to mention this. It's one of my favorite tidbits. So the rumor was that somebody misread the script and Harlan Ellison described this place as a city filled with runes. And someone speed read it and read it as city filled with ruins. So
it happens.
He was so disappointed when they came up with these ruins instead of an actual city that had runes everywhere. And he said, no, there's no chance I wrote it wrong. They're just stupid. And then in like a later biography or something, he admits that he remembers a conversation with Matt Jeffries of the Jeffries Tubes. And he verbally told him that he wanted runes, but admits that he may have slurred a word and accidentally said ruins. And Jeffries was sick when he was supposed to be putting all of this together. So someone else had to put it together instead. So it wasn't even Jeffries. So this is all like third-hand stuff. But yeah, it was supposed to be this big, glorious city, which they probably couldn't afford to build anyway. And I'm sure they were like relieved when they said, "Oh, ruins." No, we're doing ruins, not runes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why. But it works for the episode. Like it all fits in for me. Like this abandoned, like instead of having these huge guardian aliens and their time machine, they made this amalgamation and just put it into one. Well, let's make the time machine the guardian. Let's make that this organism machine thing that's left behind by a civilization.
Yeah, and the purpose of this being is to just sit on a planet and send out like tweets, just asking
basically,
hey, someone come over and check me out.
Come
play with me.
Yeah.
Come play.
I don't know what he's guardianing, honestly. Like
he's
the best way to be
time, I guess.
Well, the best way to be a guardian is to shut that thing down.
Whew. What a weird thing.
Yeah.
Like, it looked cool and I liked it, and I like we talked about it earlier. We don't have to talk about it again, but I really liked
It's gorgeous.
Because it wasn't a perfect circle.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost this archaic looking device / being, and it was very evasive on any line of questioning.
I love how much that pisses off Spock. Like, I see no reason to answer our questions in riddles. Like, we're being reasonable, just fucking talk to us.
And the things like, yeah, shut up, you don't know anything, SPAC.
Yeah, I'm using words that you can comprehend.
But as usual, in shows like this, they show history that the current audience can recognize, not history that the show would recognize, because that's a big leap, and also would require them to create a lot of sequences of historical events that wouldn't make sense to the viewer. But we see a human history. We don't even see like a Vulcan history, which is interesting as well. Like,
but it is specifically tuned to, because the majority of the away team are human, I think it is specifically tuned to those people's history. I think it's meant to be a tourist thing. I think it's supposed to be, hey, go and have a look at this area. And maybe the aliens that created it were naive enough to think, well, nobody would tamper. They would just use it to observe.
But then how do you get back? Maybe it's a matter
of hubris. Well, the thing just brings you back. It's like how Spock, Kirk, and McCoy got back. They're just like, conveniently, if you fix the timeline, I will bring you back.
I kind of like this. Like, I wish it would have stuck a little bit more. If we were to modernize this episode, I think the Guardian would say something like, oh, fuck. You know, you guys have to go fix this. I'm going to be in big trouble. This will be the lower decks version.
Yeah. And this is my first day on the job.
Yeah. I've been alive for millions of years, but this is technically my first day on the job.
They put us in a really bad position. We get no traffic at all. There's not even like Risa nearby. We never get anybody here, and I screwed it.
Yeah. I shouldn't have opened the portal until everyone signed their agreements.
Yeah, exactly.
But if he is a sentient thing that can pull someone back, he should have just pulled McCoy back immediately, right?
But then we don't have an episode, Deneé. Come on.
Have an episode.
Just don't let him through in the first place. Like, we still don't have a good explanation of the Guardians of Forever or the gate itself. It does reappear in Discovery season 2 or 3, one of them, and we get a little bit more information, but it's still they're very hesitant to elaborate on it.
Yeah, there's really and this is where we have to just suspend our reasoning and just jump in. So McCoy speeds through because he's paranoid, doesn't want to be around the people that he thinks are attacking him. For some reason, Spock can't stop him with his Spocky pinch at that point.
Nope. Too much colchicine in his blood system,
It's too
clearly.
much. He's too powerful. I think hadn't he already squeezed him once?
Yeah, he Vulcan
he
neck pinches him once and then he wakes up.
Yeah. And then he jumps through, and then the future is erased. The ship is gone, communications are gone, and our people, our Spock and our Kirk and our Uhura and the no-name red shirts are all stranded.
Who survived disappointingly. No red shirts were killed in this episode.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't predict it. I didn't predict that because I would have got that wrong. And so I think, like, if I understand, there's a moment when Spock's like, "Shit, fuck, god damn it! I could have been recording this the whole time.
I'm an idiot. I am the lowest of amoebas. I am so dumb. I could have been recording this." I love it when he just attacks himself. He's his own universe. He doesn't need your criticism. He doesn't need your praise. He is his own being just on an island. It's so fun.
It was so funny. I was like, oh yeah, you could have. Shame on you for not recording.
No, I definitely would have remembered to do that.
Yeah, he's like, we're literally watching history that no one has ever been able to record, and I'm not recording it. And now we, the cell phone generation, who could record everything with unlimited cloud access, for those of us willing to spend $9.99 a month, we are that way. We're just like recording everything. We're just documenting everything. So I'm going to call my phone my tricorder from now on.
It really is.
It's my little tricorder, isn't it?
It really is.
It just needs to make a little
constantly
sound.
It is constantly recording.
You're not wrong.
Not for our benefit.
This is a PSA to delete your Temu app immediately.
Yeah, no kidding, for real. Oh my goodness.
But anyways, yeah. So that was a funny part for me. That was one of the highlights for humor, and I think the humor in this episode really is the back and forth between. Is it the real love story of this episode? Kirk and Spock. That is an excellent point. And going back to the scene where Edith is talking to them, that is the real romance here, because the things that she describes about Spock and Kirk got me right in the heart. I love it so much because she's just like, he would clearly follow you everywhere and you never have to ask. Did you hear how he called you captain without even saying captain? He didn't even say captain.
Like, the way she nails their relationship, as if she's been watching 27 episodes of them together. Like, he's been by your side forever and always will be. I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful.
Her character is really intriguing to me.
I love her character. She's one of like the really great love interest throwaway characters. She's so good.
Yeah. I can understand why she would be really interesting for someone like Kirk to like want to get to know better. I felt the trauma of him realizing that she may have to die. I loved that Spock just said it. It wasn't this, well, maybe we can find a way, Captain. He's like, no, she's got to die, dude. Like, he was
she's no question.
He was so factual, about it.
Throw her down the stairs. If you don't do it, I will.
But their relationship, Spock and Kirk's relationship, is something that I don't get to see very often because we don't spend a lot of time in the TNG world. And so it's kind of a treat to watch the two
TOS.
of them be isolated from everyone else and kind of have to survive. And we didn't really get to see a ton together. Like, it was usually Kirk walking in and saying, why haven't you created a supercomputer yet, Spock? It's been 10 minutes,
And that's like the humor that carries the episode throughout. That's something that was apparently missing from Ellison's script, and something that Gene and Gene Roddenberry and Gene L. Kuhn added was some humor between them, and just like Kirk constantly ribbing him, just like, why haven't you done it yet? And Spock's just like, I'm working with bear skins.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make a mnemonic memory device out of bear skins and like lead.
Knives.
Knives. Like, quit it. I'm performing a miracle here. This should take years, and I'm doing it in weeks.
I know, and he's just up there, and every time, like I mentioned earlier, that device is getting more and more intricate.
It's so good. You see the evolution of it, and it's not like suddenly he has a computer. It's still these like cathode ray bulb things, and it's so fun. It's such a good attention to detail.
The sound people brought in also some of the most annoying sounds one can ever hear when you listen to TV, which is just the like just going on forever. And then what else was it? I mean, we basically heard dial-up. Like, we heard the radio version of dial-up.
Yep.
As we kind of saw all this stuff. And she walks in and she's like, what are you guys doing in here? And it seems that they are doing something pretty wild and crazy.
Yeah, it was really fun.
But it was fun. That was fun to watch. We didn't get to see them interact like their ribbing of each other and like friendship kind of like back and forth is really just in their like glances to each other and their camaraderie. So I'm sure there's so much I'm missing because I haven't watched, this entire season or anything. But for those who have been watching it all along, there's probably so much nuance that I'm kind of missing.
Well, and it really like gets better on a rewatch as well. When you've seen everything, all of these little things that they do together mean so much more when you have the rest of their history too. So there's not like tons of explicit Spock saying, I love you, but the few times he does are informed by these little episodes where they have a great relationship.
And the end of this episode, for specifically talking about the Kirk-Spock relationship, that hit me, I think, in the right space as well. Like, it all happens really, really fast and also really slow at the same time. But we'll get to that. You've got this moment in time when they see what's about to happen. Kirk and Spock and McCoy, essentially, they all see what's about to happen. She's about to get hit by a car. And McCoy goes to jump out and save her, and Kirk stops him. And McCoy, of course, is just horrified.
Yeah.
And you see the pain in Kirk's eyes. And as he's wrestling with having done the right thing by time.
God, what have I done?
But Spock, like McCoy's like, don't you know what you've just done? And Spock's simple line is like, he knows. And it just carried so much weight.
It did.
Even though Spock is just someone who says it. And they did have a moment where he was kind of like joking.
Empathy.
Yeah. Like, they joked about his humanity in this one. And again, Spock was like, it's not time for insults, Captain. Like, put your clothes on. But here in this moment, he does show a little bit of that humanity, I feel, but still just saying it directly. Like, he knows, but it's just how he said it. It was really powerful.
And Leonard Nimoy manages to like communicate so much.
He's amazing.
Emotion through Spock. Like, there's pride in that. Like, my captain did what he was supposed to do. He knows exactly what he did. He knows his duty. He knows that sacrifice. And there's just, you could overwrite that. You could do so much with it, but it's well written, great delivery. So good.
It was super emotional, especially because I didn't really know how McCoy was going to play a part in her story. It's Edith, right?
Yeah, Edith. Yeah.
I didn't know if he was going to push her in front of a car because he was crazy. So I didn't know, like. Yeah,
is he the one that does it? And Kirk tries to stop him.
And this episode could have gone in any different direction to show itself. So I didn't really know. That was one of the things that kind of kept you going at this point, which is kind of sick. But it's like, how is she going to die?
Oh, of course it is. Yeah. You see, it's like Final Destination. You're like, which one of these random objects is going to kill everyone?
Yeah. So you have like McCoy, though, he recovers and he comes to appreciate her. And the other clever thing this episode does with McCoy is he kind of thinks he's in a simulation. If this had been done in the era of the magical grid place that I can never remember.
Holodeck?
Yep.
Yep.
If this had been in the time of holodecks, he would be thinking he was on a holodeck.
Oh, right. Okay. So my brain immediately went somewhere else there for a second. Like, Kirk would be recreating Edith from holodeck.
I mean, he would.
No. Yeah, you're right.
That's not my point.
But McCoy, yeah, he's like, I know you're a real being of some sort, whether you're a shapeshifter or an alien, but he's like in disbelief.
He's suspicious as fuck.
He's like, I'm not traveling through time. What the hell is going on here?
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, and I love that part because he's giving information he absolutely should not be giving, and we know that. And that's another clever way that the writers kind of begin to build this tension soup at the end. And the more I think about it, I kind of enjoy the pacing change because even though it did feel a little bit slow, you kind of sink into this reality where these two guys are trying to survive in the streets and they're just kind of acclimating. And it's sort of nice to be reminded about what time was like in the 30s.
Yeah.
But it's in the 30s, in the 60s, when it was only 30 years in the past. So they had
close.
They had way more like props at the ready. They had made like
this is like doing a show in the 90s.
Yeah. Which we would be able to tell. We could fucking nail that right now, you know?
I have plenty of 90s clothing I could throw on.
But like in 2024, if we were to recreate something in the 30s, we'd have to do quite a bit of work to get the vehicles and get the vibe right, you know? So I was kind of transported back in time, and I'm also able to kind of think, when this show aired, this must have been really fun to watch. Like anytime you can watch your supreme characters in closer to your reality, it is really fun, like a fish out of water thing.
I always think that is.
Yeah, so this must have been really fun. If anybody listening caught this on TV when it first came out, that must have been
I'm sure
a joy.
Did. Yeah,
like of course you want to see Spock take down a police officer,
and you want to see him in a beanie. What
he was so cute in his beanie.
It's so good. And when the amount of times he would like rush for it and then it's only Kirk, and he'd like throw the beanie down. I don't want to wear the beanie. I don't like it. But this does feel like and it really is a testament to the writing and the influence on the script. It feels like its own little pocket movie. It feels like it could be an anthology. It doesn't feel super duper Star Trek. Like it just has this like anthology-ness to it, where it's just this great sci-fi story that happens to be set in Star Trek. And that's really what Gene Roddenberry wanted. Was it was just a vehicle to tell these great sci-fi stories. It's so fun. It's
fun. It was really cleverly done because, you know, McCoy, about the time you sink into, okay, we're in the 30s now, they trickle back in McCoy, who is not. I mean, we're seeing Spock and Kirk create a supercomputer, you know, to basically slow down their tricorder to show them the images that give them some clues. And that's when we learn about Edith. In one timeline, she's dying, and in one timeline, she's living, and trying to like look at the details of that. I imagine it's like going to the library and trying to slow down a microfiche machine. Just like, you know, it's like speeding by, and you're just like, wait.
Stop it. I need that bit.
And then you sprinkle in McCoy blabbing about being a doctor on the Enterprise and wearing his outfit and coming to and saying you're not really real, and just that builds the tension of this is getting like super dangerous. But he's talking to this Edith character, and again, I just find her super fascinating. This is a visionary. This is someone who can see a future, and it seems insane in a lot of ways, but
oddly specific, one might say.
Oh, I mean, it's in reality, she would have been standing up preaching Jesus. But instead, she's up there preaching science.
Preaching
and we're
sci-fi.
Like, yeah.
I love it. Let's go. It's one of like, there's two incredible things about the Edith character. One is Joan Collins. Like everyone was shocked. Like Joan Collins is a big deal even like in the 60s, early in her career. She's a big deal. So they're all kind of shocked that she wanted to do it. And naturally, she wanted to do it because her kids love Star Trek. So she was like, oh, okay, yeah, that'll be cool. I'll be on this TV show that my kids really like. And that also shows like they were doing this stuff while the show was, they didn't have season 1 locked. It was broadcasting while they were still making it.
It's incredible.
Does not happen today. It would not happen. So that blows my mind.
So
Joan Collins is just incredible.
Well, can I be honest? I don't remember seeing her in anything. Like, this might be my first time to ever see Joan Collins. Is that weird? That's weird,
that's
right?
Not weird. No, not at all. I don't think I've seen a Joan Collins movie. I just know her as this famous titan from the 50s and 60s.
So you said Joan Collins. I was like, oh, I know that name. Like, that name is in my brain somewhere. But I don't, having not watched a lot of movies and stuff, you know, I'm not like a super diehard, like I watch all movies kind of person. Right when you said Joan Collins, I went and I Googled at the beginning of this podcast recording.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So she's obviously a very famous person. I had no idea. And so my first time to see Joan Collins is this episode.
Yay, that's amazing. Me
She's
too.
so beautiful. And she has these, I don't know, like put on as many
Huge
filters
eyes.
as you want. She's just, I mean, she's fucking gorgeous. And she's like almost like a little elf or something. She's got these big eyes and this little bitty nose, and but she really carries every scene that she's in, and she's playing obviously this person that runs this, this
businesswoman,
and she's helping people, and she's interested in helping people. And then the writers are like, "Let's fucking kill her.
Yeah, let's murder. She's not coming back.
If we don't kill this woman." The Nazis are going to blow everything up because they're going to get the bomb first, guys.
Well, and that's the
Are you fucking kidding me? There's no other way. That's probably one of my bigger sins. There's no other way. You can't. This is a fucking. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second.
Time is dangerous.
Give me 1 second because I'm getting mad. Here's a beautiful character that could be just this dominating person who clearly has enough gusto and intelligence and drive to inspire people to be peaceful.
Create a movement.
Create an entire movement. But you can't just stick around with her a little bit and be like, listen, we're going to tell you something. We're from space. And you just need to hold back a little longer so that we get a bomb and someone else doesn't get a bomb. And then you just be yourself, baby girl. I think she could have done it.
I mean, it's possible, but you don't know. And you don't know how many attempts you have at getting this right, because then you've got to go back in time and stop yourselves from making the wrong decision that didn't work. But this is my favorite part of the story, and why I think it's such a stroke of genius, is that she is the right person at the wrong time. And Spock nails it. He's like, look, she's
fucking believe that. And you know what? The chat agrees with me. Just take her to the future. Come on.
She's got the right ideas, but it's just so tragic that she's at the wrong time. She's
Spock of you.
She's putting peace forward at a time where we don't need America to be peaceful. 10 years later, yeah. But then again, if she'd have done it later, they maybe didn't get involved with Vietnam, and maybe that's a good thing.
I don't know.
But then maybe you would have had the spread of communism and whatever. So it's just interesting how history is just this confluence of things happening at the right or wrong time. And it's just so interesting to pivot history on this amazing person that could have done so much good, but she can't do good right now because the world needed a bit of evil. Oh, it's so interesting.
So I think the point, I want to see a woman character survive because she must have just represented such a cool group of people watching this, to see this powerful, beautiful woman that believes in science. Of course they kill her, but whatever. Let's move on from that. I think the point of it really is that we needed to see that the captain is making difficult choices. And that's what the show, I think, is doing for the Spock character, for the Kirk character.
Yeah, they wanted to break Kirk in this episode.
Kirk, McCoy, and Spock watched them. Well, one watched himself, but the other, his two closest friends, watched him make an impossible decision for the betterment of the future. And they have to go home after that. And we've talked about this before. The level of counseling these people need to be in space like this.
Yeah.
Because they face impossible things all the time. And it's one of my favorite parts of watching the show with you is what kind of conundrum are the writers going to put in front of us today?
Oh, the conundrums are the best. They're so good.
And in this case, it's an impossible, choice where you have
not
to...
impossible.
I think that
it's hard.
They could have landed on that planet and they could have gone back and tried over and over. They could have Doctor Strange that shit,
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I demand an audience or whatever it is. You're right. There definitely could have been. There were other ways to do it. You can absolutely sin it for they go this route too easily, but there's a lot at stake. There's a lot at risk. They're meddling with. So this is allowing a person to continue who ends up being a huge figure in history. That changes so much. And there's the argument of who's to say which version of history is right. But they just want to go back to the norm. There's an interesting thing here where they could have told her and said, this is what's going to happen, and let her make the choice. And then she sacrifices herself.
Yeah, but then she
knowing
would have
the
been
history
looking in
that's
front of
gonna
that car.
happen.
And who wants to die by a car, kidding
Oh, it's the
you?
worst way. It's a terrible way to go. Like,
if you know you have to die by car, I guess she could have just made sure that it hit her head the right way, so she didn't just suffer of internal bleeding for a while. But you know, I'm thankful to have this kind of conversation with you because, you know, Chad's pointing out too that like the Guardian was the one that is in control of the portal.
Yeah.
So like in my version, in my best version, they just are like, let's bring her back. But that's not what this episode was giving. And they're right. Like, this is just not what it did. I don't care how the writers got to this. This was a great episode. I hate that it had some tumultuous, like, that there's some stuff that was uncomfortable for people. And obviously, like you said, it cost a whole bunch of money. But what an interesting kind of concept
it's fascinating.
Put the characters in history that the audience is very close to in when it was released, and then figure out how to get them back. And that was part of that was interesting for me too. So everything kind of turns out like it's supposed to turn out. She fucking dies. And then all of a sudden they're just, you know, running back through the Super Bowl steam at the end of the game. And they see their buddies and no time has passed at all. And thank God, because the backup plan was them also getting sent through to cause more trouble.
Oh, we'll wait for that in the sins. There's so much that doesn't make sense. Kirk is such a dumbass. There's nothing that makes sense about that at all.
Yeah, that was a silly move. But it all kind of works out okay. And then they just, Kirk's like, let's get the fuck out of here. I need to go talk to my counselor. I hope they do. Oh, I hope he just immediately makes a phone call.
Well, back in the day, it was one episode memory, so Edith is never mentioned again, and Kirk is fine in the next episode.
He doesn't even tattoo his body, like
little Edith. He might. We never see him completely naked. We see him shirtless plenty of times, but never completely naked.
And one button missing on this episode. Oh my.
A button?
Yeah, whenever.
Oh, because
when he put on his flannel.
I was too busy staring at Leonard Nimoy's like little tufts of chest hair popping out as a beautiful man. So overall, you have now watched what a lot of people believe is the greatest episode of Star Trek ever. Did it meet your expectations? How do you feel overall? And give us some pips now that we've talked it through.
I don't know how to answer that question.
I guess, do you understand why it's gone down in history as such a huge episode of Trek?
No. And I think that's what I'm struggling with is for me, I guess it's because Kirk had to kill his girlfriend, his budding romance girlfriend. And that was that's a huge
that
upset.
Ending is big. Yeah.
And it was pretty epic. There's a lot that happened. You have, we haven't even talked about the hobo dying. Like,
oh, that's in my sins. We'll get to the hobo. Yeah.
There's so much that this episode does. It like I said, it's like a little mini movie. So I think that gives weight to its epicness. I really, okay, for me, an epic sci-fi does something like I really didn't see coming. Or I'm seeing something I've never seen before. Or, do you know what I mean? But this one didn't do something that is super
maybe back in the 60s
different.
It did.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to connect to, is that when this came out, I feel like this hit some pretty strong notes. And so that I can understand why it's epic.
Yeah.
I would still give it like the most pips that I can because I thought it was really cool.
For me, it's a 3-pipper. It's so hard to judge it from even the 90s when I first watched it. But in the 60s, this must have been absolutely mind-blowing. There is some pacing stuff that still... I don't come back to it because there is some sketchy pacing in the middle, but I also can kind of see how much of a disjointed thing this is. Like, there are some scenes where I think about when we go from Spock picking the lock to immediately next scene, you stole the tools. Like, there are some like really jarring things where I think this would be, even if this was like an hour and 15. I know I think that would fix some of the pacing stuff where they could put in like the extra scene of being on the Enterprise and finding it's with pirates and then escaping that. I think this as a movie, this would be 4 pips, but having to condense this to 50 minutes makes it a 3-pipper for me. And it kind of stands out in Star Trek as well as just being totally different. But it's a great episode. It's a great story.
I think that given all of the details of how this was made. It's such a different pace. Like when we were doing the monster episodes, there was this mystery element. This one had a mystery too, you know, and it had a serious note. It had that deep note. It's thoughtful. We saw so many different parts of just scenes, and they got to, I don't know. I think this one hit a lot of really interesting notes. I think I'm going to give it 4. Yeah, I think I'm going to give it the highest. Pip.
Nice. Well, I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
And not because I feel pressured, but because...
No, I would never assume that. Not from you.
I don't know, and I really like Edith.
Edith's great. I completely agree. I want more Edith. It is a crime that she has to die at the end, but we don't have the same episode if she doesn't die. This isn't anywhere near as impactful if they find a way to save her. Like, it's perfect for this story. It really is.
I think this episode is really doing... It's crazy how much turmoil it had to go through, and it's crazy to think that it was originally going to be what you described, because this is absolutely like so different.
So different.
I don't understand how we arrived at this episode or who decided that this was going to be an episode that kind of tugged on heartstrings, hit a big note about the importance of one person's death, and despite their potential, like, that's fucked up.
Yeah, it's really fucked up. And I think that's why, for me, it goes down in history as such a good one, because it's so... there are so many reasons you could have decided this person has to die but doesn't, but you've made her such a wholesome... Like, she could have created Starfleet and you kill her because she's born at the wrong time. It's so tragic.
Yeah. If I could change something about this episode, I would give more time to the end of it, where there would be a little bit more of all of them together, like almost validating her a little bit. She dies. Her death to me is her looking across, watching these 3, realizing that they have to be from, like,
it's all connected now.
Why she can't hear a car coming is because she's looking at the answer to all of her most important questions.
Yeah.
And she dies right then. Like, how fucking cool is that as a writer? How
it's really
insane
cool.
is that? And then to pivot over to, like, the person that killed, the people who made the choice to kill her. That's so great. Like, that is so juicy. How do you not give that 4 pips, you monster?
It's amazing. It's great. No, it's there's bits of it that are definitely worth 4 pips, but if I, in my heart of heart, and this is why recommendations are so, like, personal. My personal experience is that it's a 3 pipper. There's just bits of it that don't completely sing for me.
It kind of reminds me of a story that is only slightly related to what we're talking about, so I'm going to derail for a moment. When I was a little girl, my dad was tasked with making something for us to eat. I don't remember much about what happened. I think I remember that my mom was like, it's you need to make something. And I think I remember Dad looking at the zucchini and looking at some flour and some eggs and being like, I think I'm going to try to bread this zucchini, and I think I'm going to see what happens. I think he put it in the oven. All I remember is that what came out was super crispy, definitely burned zucchini crisps. And I remember that somebody was upset about it. I think that was my mom, because I don't think anyone else was around. I was probably like 6 when this happened. And I loved it. They tasted so good. They were super, super crispy.
Aww.
And I loved it. And I wasn't lying. I wasn't saying, Dad, you did a great job, and eating just to make him feel better. Like, a trash fire happened and it was lovely. And that kind of feels like this episode.
That's a great metaphor.
A lot going on. It was definitely too many cooks in the kitchen. It was probably in there a little too long. But whatever came out, some people were probably like already just turned off by it. Maybe it smelled a little burned and crispy. We could have left it in longer and it could have done something else, but maybe it was right at that tipping point where we would have had something terrible had it not been created like it was. And that is why this is now the overcooked zucchini episode in my mind.
I love it. I think it's absolutely perfect. Just like the history of Edith herself, this confluence of events that came together to make this crazy episode is something that I can imagine. Like, to make this episode, you have to go through the Guardians of Forever portal to go back in time and make sure everybody doesn't get along to make sure that this episode happens. Well, now that we've thoroughly taken it apart, let's go and do some sins. Any other notes, actually, before we go to engineering?
Nope. I'm ready to go.
Battle stations, everyone. Red alert.
Red alert.
Warning. Warp core collapse in 10 seconds.
This is the part of the show where we re-engage our sin brains and remind ourselves that no TV shows without seeing even absolutely classic episodes of Star Trek. I'm going to go first because this fucking hobo.
Okay, let's talk about this.
It's so bad. I don't know why this scene exists other than here's the dangers of technology. Like, it feels like such a aside. Like, there's an entire subplot that we're missing here. McCoy chases this hobo, befriends him, assumes they're on the same side, passes out, hobo mugs him, takes the phaser, flicks it about, accidentally sets it on overload, and vaporizes himself. And then that's it. We never talk about this again.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about it now because I did not know that was a phaser.
Yeah,
I thought that was like a beard shaver.
So the original series phasers were like the gun things, but the middle bit, the black bit, actually pops out to be this handheld palm phaser. And yeah, that's what it is. It's just more convenient. You can conceal it. I don't think it's quite as powerful, but hell, it'll vaporize you.
So that's what happened.
Flick a switch
I literally
gets
thought
vaporized.
that he was just beamed out of there.
No, he vaporizes himself. He's dead.
So can you vaporize a phaser too then? Because the phaser disappeared as well, yeah?
Yeah, it's set to overload, so it vaporizes itself.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not just that he fired it, he accidentally set it to overload. So A, you shouldn't be able to accidentally overload a phaser that easily. But yeah, it's wild. And yeah, it is. I did do a little bit of research. There is a subplot there where there's a war vet that befriends Kirk, and he's the one that has to make a sacrifice, and he steals a phaser and prevents somebody from doing something shady. I don't know why you keep that in at all, because that's not where this story goes.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. It's so weird. I don't know what benefit there is to the story other than showing like the dangers of McCoy being in the past. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either, but I'm glad to know now that he wasn't beamed, although I am sad that he is dead. Maybe they're just trying to do something about like the importance of gun safety. Who knows?
Well, in the original script, they do talk to the Guardian about why didn't he make a difference to history, and the Guardian's just like he was insignificant. So I think the point originally at some point might have been not every change is crucial. So that's why it kind of explains the butterfly effect away. So just by Kirk and Spock being there, they should have changed history. But the fact that time is more of like an ebb and flow and certain things will happen, it kind of self-rights itself. So yes, this hobo could die, but he wasn't important, so it doesn't matter.
Interesting. Or
but Edith dying is important.
Kirk and Spock were always meant to be there, so that was part of it.
That's the only way time travel really works, is that what happened always happened.
Okay.
Yeah. Your turn, Ambassador.
Man, I do not like whenever I see silverware on a table without a napkin in between. That's just not okay with me.
Germ. I mean, I think even the napkins in the 30s were dirty. I think they may have been dirtier than the tablecloth.
Probably.
I don't think any cutlery was safe to use in the 30s.
Yeah.
It's amazing. There is just no alarm when McCoy beams himself off the ship. He has the wherewithal to beam himself somewhere. He's lucky it's aiming at the planet. He could have just got beamed into space. And there's no alarm to say that somebody beamed off the ship. I just think that should be easy things in place.
Those should have been in place. Yeah. I did not write down a lot of sins in this episode because I was enjoying myself.
Yay!
Which is cool. I like it.
I genuinely didn't know if you would enjoy it. I was worried it might be too lovey-dovey, airy-fairy.
Okay, so their love interest with each other, it seemed to be more like interest. It was more like a curiosity at first. And then she kisses him, I think, on the stairs. But
yes,
I didn't think that she was, like, because you mentioned that you thought that she was kind of falling in love quickly. But if you're a woman in the 30s talking about science and you meet a man that doesn't immediately say, "Why haven't you had children yet?" I think I would probably fall in love pretty quick too.
When did that happen?
And then I think but I think Kirk saying, "I think I'm falling in love," that seemed a bit sinful. That was more sinful to me because I would assume that it would be more difficult for him to find something interesting in a partner than just the gorgeousness of this woman.
Well, to be fair, he does appreciate her foresight as well. Like when she's giving the soup kitchen talk, he's kind of like, wow, she is on the money. Like it's uncanny So I think there's lots of her personality he likes as well. And they're there for weeks. Like that's only slipped in a couple of lines, but they are there for about 2 weeks. They're there for a week before McCoy gets there, and they're there for at least a week after he's arrived as well. So 2 weeks is still quick to be changing all of history to fall in love with someone, though, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My next one is that Kirk's time travel plan is fucking insane, and it shows a massive misunderstanding of how time works, and it shouldn't work. And the dumbest part of it is when he turns to to Scotty, Uhura, and the two red shirts, and says, if this doesn't work, A, how would they know it doesn't work? How long do they wait? If this doesn't work, follow us in there and try again. And even if you're not successful, you'll be in the past somewhere. A, how do you know they're not going to fuck up the timeline even worse? B, how can they try something else when your versions of you are there trying something as well? They would just bump into you. You may as well just all go in together, because it's not like you don't know that they're going to reset everything and have a fresh attempt at this. I don't know what he expects them to do that they couldn't do altogether. And C, even if they wanted to go back, Spock's gone with the fucking tricorder.
There he went.
How are they going to know? Spock and his incredible brain was trying to piece together the exact second to jump through. And now you've just got a tricorderless Scotty and Uhura. What the fuck are they going to do? They've got nothing now. They don't have a Vulcan.
She's going to be Queen of the Nile. She's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to go there because they're going to worship me and go.
And let's go. Like, it's so this is not a plan B. There is plan A, and you're lucky you're getting that. Everybody goes.
Yep, everybody. Oh, but I liked how he's like, he looks at the tricorder, he's like, and 1 and 2, like he's about to go play double dutch. He's like, go, and go.
It's just Spock's struggling. There's no way Scotty and Uhura, there is no attempt from them. It's so dumb. Your sin. That one really gets me.
Yeah.
He runs away with the tricorder.
I really like this one from chat. This is from David, and this is going to kind of go alongside with one of mine that I had in the moment when Sulu, like my sin would just be, because, like the whole console explodes, and I think my sin was going to be Sulu's eyebrows survive this.
Yep.
That was like a firework going off.
Big explosion.
There is some danger on this set. Maybe I should just do a danger sin, and there would be that one combined with Joan Collins actually falling down some stairs. She acted her heart out. She like trips and falls. She's literally on stairs, and she's caught. That was crazy. But also Sulu's eyebrows. And then in that same moment, the sin from David is all of the misery and heartache of this episode could have been avoided if the helm console had a surge protector.
Things are exploding on the Enterprise way too easily.
It's crazy.
They really are.
Yeah, because there's so much. Flyboy says it's the 23rd century. Install some circuit breakers and maybe Sulu's panel wouldn't have blown up in his face.
I love it.
But you know what? It looked cool. It looked really cool.
Yeah, it really did. That was one of the better explosions. Like they were really afraid of blowing stuff up because it was expensive to repair it.
But also people's eyebrows. Ian.
Yeah. That too.
People
I'm
have
not really
facial
worried
hair.
about the eyebrows. Yeah. I mean, Kirk barely has eyebrows, and he still does okay. Huge sin. Don't use your real names, Kirk. I'm James T. Kirk, and this is Spock.
I like.
I'm John Smith, and this is Jason Smith.
The whole point was that she could tell if you were lying because she's a superhuman somehow.
He doesn't know that.
She says, "I'll know if you're lying." She's like, "Don't lie to me," and I loved that part of this
Just
episode.
Lie.
Huh?
Double down on that. She's like, I'm not lying.
And then you get kicked out because she has super sensory powers. Did you pick up on that though?
How do you believe Spock is a real name? Like, why wouldn't you believe his name's Kevin? Like, stop it.
I'm
Spock
glad that you brought
made
it up because it was one of my favorite parts that sort of, to me, showed that Kirk was respecting her. Because she said something like, that's a really bad lie. And he chose to say the truth. Like when he says, and this is, and we all know his name is Spock. We can hear it in our imagination. And he could have been like Kevin. But instead he says the truth. And she gives this look like, okay, and she believes him. And I think that's part of why the rapport is built between the two of them and those characters.
Mm-hmm. And she has to deal with drunks and thieves and all kinds of people in her line of work. So I guess she has to be a good judge of character too. Okay. I
think that was the point that they were going for, is that he chose to tell the truth. She chose to keep him around. And it even comes back around whenever he's like, yeah, we need to steal these tools because we need them. And I feel like the point that they were trying to make is, if you're honest with me, you can do some shit that's a little bit sketchy, but you need to tell me what's going on. That was kind of
that's something I really did enjoy, is that we didn't have too much of them having to lie and fit in, and the fact that Edith is so like in tune with what the future could be allows her to accept some of the craziness that's happening, and she kind of welcomes it.
I just remembered a line that I thought was really funny, and that's when Spock's like, I need a couple pounds of platinum.
A square block about 5 pounds will do. And Kirk's just like, are you kidding me right now? Yeah.
Here's a fucking doorknob. Do something with this.
I got a baguette and some bologna. What do you want? What do you want from me?
Oh my God. That was really funny. Sorry. Okay, back into the sins. Go on.
It's your turn.
Oh,
you rebutted my sin.
When Spock and Kirk first arrive in the streets of Mayberry, they're trying to be a bit covert at some point. They kind of acclimate and then realize that they're a fish out of water, and
the ears are going to be a problem.
Yeah, Kirk goes into the alley to get the clothes, and Spock, rather than going down into the alley to get out of the view of people, just kind of stands there and watches him like a beacon of confusion. Like just this giant look at me and my weird clothing. I just feel like Spock would know better. I feel like he would have at least stepped forward and been a little bit more strategic. But that's kind of, I mean, a nitpicky is what we do, but that's something that bothered me. That seemed out of place, because if you're going to go back in time and you're not trying to change the timeline, you wouldn't stand out in the street while your captain scales.
They're kind of, and they're kind of whimsical about the whole thing and getting caught. And Kirk's just like, you seem to enjoy me talking to the police officer. Like, the stakes don't seem very established, but it's that time in the episode where you need a bit of whimsy.
Yeah. I guess we do talk also about when these characters go into what we perceive to be very dangerous situations. To them, it's like a Tuesday at 2.
Yeah.
They're so...
this is a holodeck for them. It kind of feels that way.
Yeah. My version of danger and stupidity and their version of danger and stupidity are light years apart, because they deal with the most dangerous situations on a regular basis. So it's kind of like, for me, I'm like, why are you acting so casual? And for them, they're like, yeah, we're going to figure it out. We'll either change time or we won't change time. It's not a big deal.
Exactly. It's the problem with the time travel episodes. And this does get a little bit of a pass because the Guardian of Forever is there, and you can say that the Guardian is guardianing the things that need to be guardianed, but not this specific thing. But I would have loved it if they get the clothes, and the clothes belong to somebody that had a job interview that day, and they go on to be the general of NASA or something like that, but they missed the job interview because Kirk and Spock stole their clothes.
Yeah.
That's the comedy version of this episode.
Perfectly fitting clothes too. Ding.
Very convenient. Very, very convenient. There's one size fits all beanie. Amazing. Anything else, Ambassador, before we wrap up?
Nope, that's it for me.
It feels like a landmark episode. We covered one of the really big ones. It's really fun.
If you would not have told me before the show, I wouldn't have had any idea.
No, I wouldn't have either. And this is why I 3-pipped it, because just personally for me, it's missing some of the... I'm judging it as like an episode of Star Trek, not like an episode of high prestige science fiction, which Harlan Ellison definitely wanted it to be. But yes, we're going to take a hard left turn. Next week, we continue our unconventional love series, and we are going to go back to Deep Space Nine with the second most requested episode from you guys, the listeners, looking for Podsper in all of the wrong places. This is, I'm not going to say anything more about it. It's Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
It's fascinating. Join us next week for looking for Podsper in all of the wrong places. Yeah, and keep sending us your emails. CaptainsPod@cinemasins.com, CaptainsPod@CS. I promise I will look at the DMs on X/Twitter and Discord.gg/CinemaSins. Send us your recommendations. I do know what the next theme is going to be.
Are you telling people already?
shall we tell people now so that they can get their requests in for the next season, or should we hold on to it for a little bit longer?
I think you should do that, because then you have weeks and weeks of gathering, and that way you can say the most requested episode. Yeah. If you do it with only 1 week, I feel like they won't have enough time to respond.
Yeah, we have a few more episodes in the Unconventional Love series that we're going to do. I'm tempted to do like 5, like do this in themes of 5. So like 5 episodes of this, 5 episodes of the next. So that would mean we've got 4 more to do. And I do have 4 that you guys have requested. The next theme is going to be time travel, everyone.
We just did time travel.
Wait, what?
Today's episode is a time travel episode, Eon.
We'll watch it again then.
Great.
The next theme is going to be 5 time travel episodes. Not necessarily the best, but give us your favorites. There's one that I'm going to put in there just for me, but the other 4, assuming you don't request the one that I want to pick. But yeah, send us your emails, your favorite episode, time travel episodes that span any season of Star Trek, whatever you like. I cannot wait for this. It's going to be so much fun. But we still have a few more weeks of lovely episodes. And until next week, I'm Captain Ian. And I have to go construct a mnemonic memory device using stone knives and bearskins.
And I'm happy to be in a zinc-plated vacuum tube culture.
That was my second one. I was going to do that too. That's amazing. That's the best. Spock is the best. We love him. Live long on Podsper.
Thanks for listening. Want to connect with the show? Our hailing frequencies are always open through captainspod@cinemasins.com. Like, comment, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice, and be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Oh my God, look at Dr. McCoy in that picture.
Just oh wait, that's not the one I was going to throw up. It's this one.
Yeah.
Sudden scream.
That's rough.
DeForest knew he was only in this episode for 6 minutes and just acted the shit out of all of them.
He just ate it up.
Ugh.
What happened?
I didn't put any sugar in my coffee.
I would venture to say that if you feel that strongly about coffee that doesn't have sugar in it, you probably shouldn't have coffee at all.
I probably don't like coffee. No, I need the effects, not the taste. Unless it's that berry one from Classic Rock.
There's other things you can do. I think
coffee...
like
cordrazine, apparently. Okay, welcome to Engineering, the part of the show where we...
grab a phaser and shoot a hobo. Link says last week we did not do Moopsie versus the Q continuum.
Who would win? Moopsie versus Q? I think it's Q.
Q. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Q's winning that one.
Who will we put versus Moopsie?
The Guardian.
Listen, if Moopsie were to go back in time,
it would break everything.
It would break everything.
Yeah,
so
that's how humanity
Moopsie would
ends.
win, but then everybody would be dead.
That's amazing.
Sin, in the present, even after the Enterprise is gone, Spock is able to use his tricorder, but in the past, it can't be used unless tied into a computer. Convenient plot device is convenient.
Yeah, that's a new thing, isn't I think they're establishing that the tricorders are networked to the Enterprise computer, and so they don't work unless they're within Bluetooth range of the Enterprise, which is an interesting rub, and it's to time delay the mystery for sure.
History lover Sin says Edith says that her young man was taking her to a Clark Gable movie, and Clark Gable had only done extra work in movie and was a stage actor the year this episode is set. Oh, that's a really good Sin. Yeah. Because she was acting like Clark Gable was the shit.
Interesting. Everybody should know who Clark Gable is.
Yeah, but maybe he wasn't popular. He wasn't famous. Ooh, good one.
Oh, I love it. That's a nice point.
There was a moment when we were watching this where Uhura went around the left side of the portal, and then the other group went on the right side. They were looking for McCoy.
Yeah.
And you said there's Uhura's butt cheek or something. Because her. So this is interesting. Fun fact from David: the original velour uniform shirts had a tendency to shrink when washed. Toward the end of a season, they'd be very short. That's why McCoy's shirt is almost a crop top. But is it also why hers was riding up even higher?
You just see her underwear. It's straight up red underwear. You see it. It's a thing.
I want to point this out too, because this is a really, really good point from Nick. Not saving her is very different from choosing to kill her. This isn't the finale of Seinfeld. I introduce you to the trolley problem, Nick. You know this. It's still a choice. Not choosing is still a choice. You are choosing. You have knowledge. Is it second degree or something? Where there's there's like intentional murder, but then there's like murder by not helping when you know.
By inaction. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're not wrong. Like you're not actively choking someone to death. You're sitting back watching them get killed when you know that they're going to get killed.
Yeah.
Now, in a world where these three go to court, how would they prove that they're from the future and had knowledge that they were like? It's a
this court case isn't going anywhere for sure.
This is a really strange sort of situation for sure, but
you won't be able to prosecute. Definitely not. Great suggestions for time travel episodes. Little green men, cause and effect.
Do they have to email these in to be submitted, or are you going to keep track?
It would help. It would help if you could send them to me in an email.
CaptainsPod@cinemasins.com.
Because then I have them all in. I have a folder for requests. Nick wants some clarification. OMG, do we do good time travel or terrible time travel? Because the terrible ones are the funniest. Agreed. I just want your favorite. Like, no, doesn't have to be the best. Just your personal favorites. If that qualifies as it being a stupid one, go for it. Link says, does Doctor Who count as a time travel episode?
Oh my God.
Okay, specifically Star Trek time travel.
Can you imagine?
There would be riots.
What if we released an episode and we just didn't tell anyone that it was actually an episode of Doctor Who, and the entire podcast audience just heard us talking about a Doctor Who episode, trying to figure out where it was in Star Trek world?
I don't want to fuck with our audience like that.
I don't think they'd appreciate it.
I think that would be funny for about 2 minutes.
The Outtakes always has Deneé's soundcheck pre-show routine. Oh
yeah, always. Yeah.
Okay, I kind of cut that from my audio today. I wasn't really thinking about that being a thing.
Why did you cut it? How did you cut it?
Well, because like I do my sound check and then I go back and I listen to it to make sure everything is working properly.
Right.
Then I hit record again and I keep going. But this time I hit record and recorded over it.
But that's all the outtakes. That's all I put in there.
Check. Oh no.
Saved it. Much better.
Oh, I'm gonna check. I look like him. I'm so sorry.